Smile to the camera. Yeah, hello everyone. I'm just setting up some things here so we can see your comments. There we are. We're live.
It's gonna be quite distracting having us playing back.
No,
a few seconds later.
No, I know, exactly. But what I found, if I go here, there's a chat thing,
Okay.
and then I can scroll down here, so we only see the chat.
Makes sense. One waiting. Thanks, Ben.
Yeah, that's Ben.
Big fan.
But yeah, Ben has been waiting for this all his life.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think we're fine. Ben, are you hearing us?
No, it's offline.
Ooh.
No, but normally there will be a few couple of minutes. Oh, it says offline. Yeah.
It did this before and
Yeah.
was actually recording and doing
Yes. Yes.
It's worth refreshing your page, the stream offline page, and see if it's just you've got a unprepared bit of the stream.
Still says offline. We've had this once before, and the video actually
It's out there.
It did, yeah.
That's exciting. Maybe the people waiting in the chat can give some sort of clue if they're seeing something more than we see.
Yeah.
Which is a blank live stream offline message.
Live stream offline. That looks a bit more promising.
That is more promising.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Okay.
Try again, Ben.
Yeah.
There we go.
All right. So I think we're So yeah, we're gonna hide ourselves here.
It's quite a long way behind, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Do you think it can be the whole? Oh no, there it is. That's
Oh, there you are.
up.
So
Yeah,
what
it's
was it? Like 10 seconds or
more
so?
than 10 seconds, or
Yeah.
a long 10 seconds it felt.
Okay. All right. Hello everyone. I'm Sar, and this is James Strachan.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. Other than being my friend and a nice person, you're also from a company called James and James.
That's right.
And which does fulfillment, and we'll get to what that means. And we're just going to have a chat today about fulfillment and some other things that would come up. But I tried to remember where we met, and
I tried this too. It was a pub.
Was it?
In Cambridge.
No. It's like, how did we get introduced? I seem to remember that it had something to do with the Hauser Forum.
Really? I don't have a lot to do with the Hauser Forum, but I did attend a few events.
Did you ever? You never had sort of an office or a desk at the Hauser Forum?
No. So the Idea Space, which is at the top of the Hauser Forum in Cambridge, has a set of offices, and I knew some people who had offices there, but I only really attended there for, I think, a now defunct co-working session that was called Jelly.
Yeah, Cam Jelly.
Cam Jelly. That's the one.
You know, I actually I don't remember, but I think somebody introduced or somebody mentioned you to me or introduced us, and then we might have met or something.
We're keeping the details vague.
Yeah. But so this must have been 6, 7 years ago, 5, 6, 7.
More than 5, less than 8.
And
as close as I can go.
At the time, you had well, maybe we're jumping ahead, but you had the company in Cambridge. You had a big warehouse in near Cambridge, and I was just genuinely, really, I mean, I was fascinated by the motivation to start a fulfillment company, and the reasons. But I also was impressed by the fact that I remember you telling me, everything was designed to make money, kind of thing.
To be accurate. Because the cost of not being accurate is
exactly.
costly.
But no, I think what I'm getting at was that I was when we talked, everything was considered, measured, and
yeah,
and to make sure that this is a business that is going to be profitable once you understood the business that you're in.
That's right. So yeah, that I understand what you mean now. The idea we had going to business was accuracy is the thing that counts. To be accurate, you need to know what you do and what you don't do, and you can't really improvise too much around that. You have to basically have a spec and work to the spec.
Yeah.
Because of that necessity, we know exactly what we'll do for any input.
Yeah.
So for any given instruction, we know exactly what the output will be, which means from a very early stage in the business, we had a really tight handle on everything that we were going to spend in terms of labour and equipment and space and time and all the things that we could account for quite easily and had to account for as part of the running of the system. We would also then attribute a cost to charge that for. So we know the cost. We charge a corresponding marked up cost to make sure there's some profit built in correctly to each part of the process.
So, let's. So my point was just to make that point that it was. I really like that. I like that. That was. It was scientific in a way, right?
And it was definitely a guiding principle of the business. And we did that from the start rather than starting to do something and then try and work out how are we going to make anyone pay for this. And
then, I mean, just to tie this up, and then we'll take a step back. You've written the entire back end software.
Yeah. Well, at one point I was the one guy doing it.
Yeah.
These days there's 8 or 9 of us around the software area of the company, although that includes people who are managing projects and doing design work, testing and doing customer support.
But it kind of echoes a little bit of slightly that I for the stuff that I do, I also figured, well, if I want to do this right, I'm going to write my own software. And by right is my right kind of thing, And
you write to the level you need it. I think that's always the case.
So let's take a step back.
Okay.
And we'll talk about fulfillment and So define fulfillment
in a spiritual sense.
No, I think.
Okay, so the type of fulfillment that I can offer.
Can you? Okay, yes, in the spiritual sense.
We'll have to return to that subject. It's not something that I or anyone close to me sells, the spiritual fulfillment side of things. But so fulfillment, or our little strip of fulfillment, which is called e-commerce fulfillment, is the real-world means of completing an order. That is after the point when payment's been taken, and you decided what you want, and we've got all the details for the order, address and who you are and whatever. That's the transactional part complete, and now we need to do the real-world component of that transaction, which is get some stock off of a shelf in some warehouse, get it into a box or a jiffy bag or onto a pallet, get it into the back of a van, the van comes to you, you get the goods, and that's the whole order cycle complete. So
I've read one article once that put it in a nice... It framed it in a way that I found kind of compelling. Now, it's sort of all the invisible part between the interaction with whoever ordered something, and it immobilizes a lot of things that are invisible to you as the consumer.
Exactly. If they work, they're totally invisible. It's a necessary consequence for you to be a consumer online, particularly, is the expectation that when you make the payment, the thing will arrive.
Yeah.
And if that happens, and it happens in a time scale that doesn't really freak you out, you think not a thing of it.
Yeah,
it's not valuable. It's not interesting.
But you don't. But a lot of people don't realize all the stuff that goes on, right? So somebody clicks the Amazon or the order from Tesco. But then there will be humans. You're basically activating a lot of humans.
Some robots and some vehicles
robots,
and some
yes,
other things. Yeah.
To go and fetch the things, and if it's a supermarket, they'll choose the ones that you are going to eat, and put them in the baskets or wherever, and then put it in the package. And there's people, there's a lot of things involved, and somebody picks it up, and
they're considering a whole mess of things that you as a customer don't need to consider.
Yeah.
I mean, your selection is, here's a nice curated set of things you might want to buy, you choose the ones you want. From the perspective of the logistics, the fulfillment side of that, it's quite different. I mean, we're looking at different quantities, different outer quantities, so these things might be on pallets or in bags or in any one of a number of bizarre ways that clients ship goods into our warehouse. We have to work out not only which format we're looking at, we're looking if we want to break down a bigger format into a smaller format. We're looking at our priority for making sure we keep pallets intact, so we don't have a pallet minus one little box in the corner, and now that's not a pallet anymore. So there's and when you add on top of that the idea of products which are replacements for each other, or products which bundle together to make other products. You can imagine kitting up things on the fly is possible for simple kits. And then something that's particularly close to where we started around batch control, that is making sure that something goes out when it's in a fit state for sale. So less relevant to hardware and the kind of things that you ship, but of course almost anything really does have a shelf life if you think about it, because ultimately things perish on a shelf. Even if they're not moisturizers or hand creams or food items, things still go out of date.
I had maybe a month ago a package from Amazon. Was expecting it, and then I looked what happened, and it said because I knew it was going to be delivered that day, and it says damage during delivery, and then it returning, to wherever. So it was returned, and then I got the refund, but
that would have to be very damaged during delivery, given the type of things that I've had delivered and thought,
I know.
This is ruined.
I've seen some pictures of things being delivered, the club stuff being delivered. That was a bit, it's like, I'm surprised. I'm actually surprised it doesn't happen very often. When I imagine how these things are handled, there's no, whoever handles the shipping, not at the warehouse, but kind of in between. They have no attachment to that item, right?
They don't necessarily know if it's valuable or breakable, or if it's loaded at one end of the box or the other end of the box. There's a whole pile of things that, and they're on very tight turnarounds. Their margins are razor thin if they get delivery on the first attempt. So they're strongly motivated to move quickly, and to just pile vans up as quickly as possible, drag stuff out onto the pavement, and then try and cram it through the letterbox or throw it over a fence. So they've got their work cut out for them. It's actually a surprise that it doesn't go wrong more than it does.
Yeah.
But of course, that shifts with perspective, because to the individual, it can feel like 100% your parcels don't go very well. Yeah. It's not reassuring to you that you're in the 0.01% that have issues. Yeah. If your local depot or your local delivery man is careless, you're going to feel like delivery doesn't work at all.
Yes.
That's a very localized effect to you.
Yeah.
And that's why you get really angry customers at some points, because they think that because you kind of discount this invisible industry of the fulfillment logistics that go into to putting the order together in the real world, and they just assume the relationship is quite a simple bricks and mortar style relationship. I go to your shop and I buy stuff from you, therefore I can blame you for everything that goes wrong. They'll bring all that fury they've built up at any sloppy picking that's happened, any damage that's happened as part of the transit.
These are, you're talking about your customers.
I'm talking about the end customer.
Yeah.
Who can take all of their anger at the delivery people. Or the fulfillment people's mistakes, and lump it all back onto the seller.
To the seller, yeah.
And what most customers aren't aware of is there are almost always three different groups. Some sellers do their own fulfillment, some fulfillers do their own distribution, but that's not so common. But for the most part of everything that goes on, unless you're huge like Amazon and try and cover the whole area with your big multi-vertical company, these things are actually quite well understood as separate business units, but that's hidden. Before I was in this industry, I didn't have an understanding of this. Didn't really think about it.
I think a lot of people, there was this kind of the shopping online, and for a while, and it's deceivingly somewhat effortless for the person. You don't have to go to the shop and get the stuff, but or
All the rest of the stuff still has to happen.
Yeah,
Just in reverse.
you're saving the trip to the store and your time and all that, but somebody else is doing the driving.
Well, so it's obviously more efficient because it's bulked together.
Yeah.
But if you think about the travel and some of these things, this stop on the road from you in Cambridge, say, could be shipping stuff from a warehouse that's just along the road from them. It could go to the local depot in Peterborough. It could go to the central hub in Birmingham for rearrangement, come back to the local depot in Peterborough overnight, and then go out and around the next day.
Sometimes you see people share kind of the route their package is taken. So so there is that's fulfillment. It's is it always been called fulfillment, or is this just when?
I think fulfillment was a specific part of the logistics chain, even before internet stuff.
Okay.
I don't have personal experience of that,
right.
but I believe that was a term, and that's why we narrow our definition to e-commerce fulfillment, and we're targeting not the kind of thing where it comes in bulk and goes out in bulk. Mm-hmm. Most of our clients send in bulk and ship out in packets or boxes.
Right. We'll get to that. There's also the term drop ship. Is that the same, or is this is there a technical difference?
Yes. So drop ship is it's not the same kind of thing as fulfillment, as in a drop shipped purchase will require fulfillment at some point. The difference between drop shipping, so imagine that the traditional thing is I as a customer go to a seller who owns some stock.
Yeah.
It might be in their warehouse, it might be in a third party fulfiller's warehouse, but they own it. It's really theirs. So I pay them money and they send me the goods. Mm-hmm. A drop shipping relationship adds an extra group, so a third or a fourth party to this, who are the affiliate. They are the people who will take the money from you, but they own no goods. What they have is an agreement with people who own goods to ship for them and to sell at a price. So it's kind of futuresy system in stock that they believe someone has, that they have a set of pricing for, and they'll mark up and sell. So it's a way of doing low capital sales, which is why it's common among people who are in affiliate networks. Also tend to be interested in not just referring, but trying to actually do the sale directly. I don't pass you to a different website. I say, my website, pay me the money. I hold the money. Yeah. I'm in the value chain. I instruct someone to fulfill products out of their own stock that they own. Okay. So now I've got money in hand that I don't really have any reason to have all of, and you've lost some stock. Right. Because you've shipped it out on instruction, and if we have trust in our relationship, I will pay you some fraction of that. So
somebody who drop ship does the drop ship or whatever.
Does the drop shipping.
Or no, I mean the affiliate, the guy, the person taking money, they would instruct somebody to ship, and they might use a fulfillment service to ship.
The people they instruct may in turn use a fulfillment service. Drop ship. So as a fulfillment service ourselves, we don't work with drop shippers. Okay. We work with sellers. Yes. Those sellers may in turn offer favourable pricing to agents known as drop shippers, who will be a kind of middleman who doesn't just pass through and ask for a kickback. Yeah. They take the money and then hold back a certain fraction of it. Okay. So that's a.
Are there any other variants of this sort of thing?
That's the main one that I can think of. I think the question is, do you pay the person who owns the goods, or do you pay the person who can get the goods for you? There are other variants of this middleman, zero capital style sale. I mean, there's a question. There's definitely a scummy side to drop shipping stuff, because one, there's a trust hazard in having an extra person who has no skin in the game somewhere in your value chain, and those relationships can sour, and they can particularly be at arm's length from the reality of the stock, because let's face it, it looks good on paper if they can sell it for 100 and buy it for 80. Yeah. But they do it in that order. They first sell it for 100 and then they buy it for 80. Great, I'll do that an unlimited number of times. And sometimes irresponsible drop sellers get the reputation for playing a bit fast and loose with the truth, because they'd rather have your £100 and then worry about
it's your problem, right?
Your problem is try and work out when the stock comes in. You know, it's going to be another week. It's going to be another week. They don't know or necessarily care. So while it can be done well, it's a region where you might find some less ethical players.
I've got introduced to it. I've somehow stumbled on a Reddit thread about somebody describing how amazing doing drop shipping is and all that. But I guess Yeah, I mean, it did sound like what it was really. You find someone that has some stock somewhere for cheap, and then somebody that doesn't have a website or something, and then you present it in a very nice way to the audience in your country, and then
the country thing's a great example of where you're clearly adding value, and if you do it properly, you can provide a really nice interface to goods which are cheaply available in China.
Yeah.
And you take responsibility for only selling things that you know that you can get shipped, and you only work with companies that you know are going to, be responsible. But it's dropshipping is the kind of thing that pops up for me on YouTube pre-roll adverts, where someone with a flash car behind them says, "Wait, don't switch off the advert. I'm going to show you how to make £4,000 a day sitting in your Lamborghini or whatever."
Yeah. So, talk about, I mean, I don't know if you're aware, but because so I introduced you to friends of mine who needed fulfillment, and then so I went to your website and I was catching up on how the company is doing, and now I see a lot of advertisements from James and James.
Oh, that's not accidental.
It's almost ubiquitous now. When I open the site with advertisement, it's going to be James and James, and I go like, "Hey, I'm sold."
This is the main part of our strategy, because SAR is one of our regretted losses. You might not know this.
We can't talk about it.
Boldport was one of our not earliest, but certainly early clients, and was a great client to work with, because, as you're probably aware, SAR does things pretty rigidly and by the book, and that fits really well with our systematic approach. And unfortunately, in order to get more hands-on and touchy-feely
there were a few reasons. I was going to get to that later, but I think so. When I first opened the shop, as many naive new sellers, I suppose, I was thinking that it's just gonna pick up, and then there's gonna be a lot of shipments, and then I think my view was I want to try fulfillment, so I know what it's about, and it was easy because you sort of guided me through this. And I think I remember that when we went through it, there wasn't. We knew that it might not work out. There was, and then I realized that I'm only getting. There was a few at the beginning that I think, and then 1 or 2 a week kind of thing. I didn't do much advertisement and things, and then it didn't make sense to continue this with the fulfillment. But there was another aspect to this, is that I wanted to personalize things, and fulfillment
is impersonal.
Yeah, it's not
kind
something.
Of by its nature.
I wanted to write a little note for people who are, who thanks for your order, because it was the beginning and things. And
that comes across as less sincere if you pay someone else in a warehouse to
print it or print. But you can't. I mean, you didn't offer it. I think the solution you gave me was, you're gonna have the item, and then you're gonna have another item. That will be something extra that you put in a thing. And but it seemed like at the time that it wasn't. Now it's not something. Oh, there was. Yeah, I was also using this kind of. Do you remember Ticktail was the shop? Do you remember there was like we were talking
Nightmares? I think. What happened with that?
No, nothing. Of course, you didn't support it through your API, because it was a tiny Swedish thing, company. It was good, but so yeah, we talked about that and things. Eventually I shut down the shop and started the club, which was based a lot on my experiences with running a shop, and partly why the plan was always to with the club. It wasn't by mistake that I wanted to ship 1 day a month.
Yep.
It was because I knew that every time there was an order, I would have to. Well, I mean, in your case. Well, there's also issues of stock and things like that, right? Because I remember you reasonably, when you accept stock, you you want it to be in a somewhat presentable,
Repeatable is the key for us. Yeah.
thing. So it'll be a box,
Mm-hmm.
and there will be a certain
always
amount
12
of
in it, or it's always 30 in it.
or there'll be a big box with subdivisions of a
Yep.
certain amount, so it's easy for you to count
Yep.
that you got this. There's also barcodes and things like that that I wasn't quite ready for at the time, because of course when I designed the thing I didn't think about that.
Yes.
And then I didn't manufacture huge batches.
Yes, so you didn't have the need to do this at your end.
And then if I wanted a few to give or things, or where do you put the stock? Where do you think? So it didn't. I'm looking at back now. It's I was too. It was too early, and I was too small to benefit from the fulfillment. But the experience was good. For me now, I mean, of course, I know a lot more about fulfillment than I did before, right? So there's, So that's kind of my. This must have been 4 years ago, or no more,
13,
4, 5,
maybe.
yeah. When I first started making the very first kits before the club, of course. So.
All of which, to what you were saying, the fact that we're now stalking you around the internet is part of our very long ploy to get you back under our roof.
Yeah, I mean, the volumes. I now have the club has 500 members, and we're shipping to all over the world, and. It crosses my mind whether I should change the operation a little bit towards that, but then I think the main issue is the stock.
Mm-hmm.
So because I'm shipping from here,
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of flexibility on when the stuff is ready. It could be ready the week before.
Or the
Ideally, I mean, ideally I have it ready the month before, but that's the ideal. But yeah, I can have it ready and start shipping.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if I need to send stuff to the US
there's a
warehouse
step.
and the thing, and I will have to make a lot more stock. The kind of stuff that the club does is quite different, because I make this one thing. Every one of them, every project has its own form factor. It's different.
You'll struggle to get the scale between projects, although you've got enough within the project.
Exactly. So I make only a certain amount, which don't. That's it. That's the amount.
Well,
that
I'm hearing a lot of excuses here, so it's disappointing to me. But you're never getting away from our adverts. We've paid Google a lot of money to track you all around the internet. So.
I did think about how much. Yeah, that must have, and it's wasted too, because if I need fulfillment, there's
nowhere else you'd go.
I don't know how else I go. Right.
Well, just don't click the links. That's
all right.
That's
how to
until you're ready. In which case, type it in directly at the browser. That's ecommercefulfillment.com.
Well, yeah. Let's go back to the name. So, James and James.
That makes sense, right? I'm one of them.
Which one?
The first one.
You are the first one?
Absolutely.
Did you cover that when you first started?
That was established very early on, that both of us would claim separately to be the first one.
When I did search for you the other day, there is another, was it a shoe company or something, James and James?
They exist, but we bought the domain off them last year. So we are now jamesandjames.com.
Okay. You had double James?
We had a lot. Okay.
Yeah.
The naming of companies is hard, right? So we originally called ourselves Six Works Limited because we wanted a short company name.
It starts with a number.
No, this is the first of problems we had with this. So we were calling the company, in its treatment, the Six Sigma Fulfillment Company.
Okay.
As in when we were just sketching this down and needed a name for it. So the Six Sigma Fulfillment Company.
Just before that, you studied engineering.
Yes.
In Cambridge.
Yeah.
And James as
also.
well. You met there. So you have a technical background. It's so Six Sigma, I guess, is the
is something that means something to us. So Six
Yes,
Sigma basically is a trademarked term, and you can go on courses to learn how to do it. But essentially, it means reducing error down to a point at which it is so unlikely as to be not worth planning for. So you set your processes up in such a way that they should not fail.
Okay.
And the Six Sigma describes how unlikely that error state is. And if you can get it down to a Six Sigma style error, it's so few parts per million that you can successfully run a business expecting it to work, as opposed to keeping having to check it works.
Okay.
Anyway, so our concept was based around accuracy, and we were always writing at the top of the piece of paper, the Six Sigma Fulfilment Company, and we just got shorter and shorter until we just got it Six. The company's called Six. Well, this is a good name by my standards because it's short, it's meaningless, it'd be fairly easy to refer to, but unfortunately it's terrible, as you've discovered, or you start to discover. It sounds like a number when it's written as letters. Six Limited was already taken in the UK.
Yeah.
So we added this weird works thing on that was supposed to be like a catch-all term. And Sixt is a
rental
franchise rental company.
And it's too close to sex, too.
Well, depends on what you like.
I mean,
really.
so, yes.
Apparently that sells. So, I don't know if that was just
But it's also hard to search for, right? I mean, just today I normally listen to Planet Rock. Mm-hmm. And just today, in the morning or in the afternoon, Wyatt, the presenter, he was saying about how some band names are hard to find, like Live.
Yep.
And then somebody wrote the band, and somebody wrote in that there's a Cambridge based band named something that I don't remember, but also I think so. It's particularly if you're obscure, right? If you write live band, it's a thing. But if you're like mega stars, there might Google might be smart enough to know that that's what you're searching for. But if you're a local band, then So Six
Six was a name that kind of fell out, and there was It was fine actually, because all of our targeting online, no one's searching for Six. No one was ever going to be searching for us. They were going to be searching for what we offer, which is fulfillment, e-commerce, order shipping. There are loads and loads of terms around how to get stuff shipped online. Right. And so we SEO'd aggressively against those terms, and we quite quickly got ecommercefulfillment.com, which was at a time when Google were giving a lot of credibility to top-level domain keywording.
That's what you get to now if you search James and James. Right?
That's it. So we keep ourselves under there because it's the most term specific, most industry acknowledged, and it might be unintuitive to people who don't believe the industry exists or never had any cause to think about it. But if you're in the industry, you will soon enough discover that term has a specific meaning, and so no punters search for this. Only business clients search for this, and that's quite a good filter for us.
Right.
How we ended up being called James and James then is we went through a rebranding exercise 3 or 4 years into the company. So we started in 2010. This would be 2013, 2014. I reckon we were called James and James when you joined us.
Yes.
Yeah, that'd be a fairly recent thing. And we were trying to work out how to position the appearance of the company to make sure people understood more easily what it was or what it did. And Six Works Limited didn't conjure up anything particularly. It was a bit of a blank slate. It sounded like a skunk works, or it sounded like a kind of anonymous company name, just with a letter or a number or something to describe it. So that wasn't doing anything for us. And it was pointed out to us that after going through a whole load of names we thought were sexy, and there's the Google style name where it's a meaningless word or a roughly meaningless word that
like
you
Boldport.
Boldport's got
there's
something in it. That's the concatenation thing. There's the concatenation technique where you take
it's concatenation, check domain. Concatenation, check domain.
Exactly. Strong approach.
Yeah.
What we ended up being convinced by was the argument that we were a relatively new, relatively small company looking to work with comparatively large, comparatively traditional companies. And we were asking them to give us millions and millions of pounds worth of their goods on day one.
Yeah.
And while you can have as many reassuring conversations about how you do things and your approach and whatever else, anything you can do to ease someone's mind in terms of you being a long-term, permanent, accountable company is great. And what was pointed out is we are offering a service that needs the kind of trust of a bank or a lawyer. Yeah. And they name themselves after the people who are going to take the fall if something goes wrong. And we happen to both have the same name. So while we tried Strachan and Hyde and various different things around that, the idea was serif font. two names that make sense. It's a little bit jokey, you know. It's not exactly as straight laced as Strachan and Hyde would have been, but the idea was there too.
Yeah, it does give a little kind of chuckle, and maybe it's even a conversation starter.
Well, it's always a conversation starter because they ask who's first.
Yeah,
and I tell them
like me. Yeah,
yeah.
I thought that was clever.
It does its job. There's obviously something incredibly vain about having your name not once but twice on the wall of every building, but that's not the primary reason.
There's a company here in London called Technology Will Save Us. Have you heard of it?
I think I have, but I don't no idea why.
No, they make electronic kits for not for kids, but for people who are learning, and it's very well done. And the guy who runs it with his wife is called Daniel Hirschman, and his own company is called Hirsch and Man.
Hirsch and Man.
Yeah, so Hirsch and Man. I thought it was quite nice.
It feels like he's ready to dodge the blame there. No, I'm the Hirsch part. That's not me. You're looking for Mr. Man. It's not available at the moment.
So, Double James, that's that was like that's kind of you probably go well. Let's just get the domain type of thing.
We wanted something. When we were getting away from Six Works, we needed something for our internal domains, so our internal applications.
I remember.
So that changed over to being Double James because we couldn't get any sensible amount of James and James.
Yeah.
Double James was annoying because it's really hard to. It sounds like an instruction. It sounds like 00.
Okay.
Would you write 00 in?
Yeah.
People were always trying to write James. And the word double, the name James.
Oh, yes.
.com.
Yeah.
Is how we used to have to say it on the phone. And that was annoying. So James and James.com is a great. It's so understandable. It's 3 short words. It's only 2 short words, really.
Yeah.
.com. People almost never get that wrong.
Right.
So that's paid
that's
dividends.
Good.
It costs a lot of money to buy that domain.
I imagine. Once they know that you need it.
Well, they had a running company. They weren't exactly. It wasn't squatting by any stretch. They were a real going business, but it was kind of. It wasn't going anywhere fast. Yeah. It was just.
And then so at some point they know that you're desperate not desperate, but you're.
We played a very long game with them to try and you'll notice you haven't done much with your website recently. Is it the thing that you're interested in maintaining? But yeah, there's a very touchy thing about these unique assets, and it really was. There wasn't really an alternative domain for us that would have done the job. Yeah. So that was fine. Amortized over the years we'll use it. It was probably not that expensive. But what we started doing, they were a footwear company. I think French footwear company. Have a reasonable history, and so I had a bit of SEO built up on the domain. But it was more through just having been there for a while, and we realised that obviously, if they were going to continue doing business, the domain was actually not the most important thing because James and James means nothing for shoes. They're not big enough that the brand carries itself, and that was their kind of Google side brand. Yeah. So we started warming up another domain for them. We bought jamesandjamesfootwear.com, and we put up pictures of what James and I wore on our feet.
Really?
Might still exist. And so we just warmed this up to get just to publish a few articles, a few pictures of shoes and things like that, to make sure that domain, when it came online, was actually not going to be quite as deleterious to their Google rank. I don't know if that worked fully, but it certainly showed them that we could do the exchange of domains. It demonstrated that we had something to offer. So we not only bought the domain from them.
They didn't fulfillment, did they?
They didn't.
Yeah, unfortunately, huh?
What can you do?
You couldn't barter.
No, sadly, they were. They have bricks and mortar. And
if they needed fulfillment, they probably would have needed the domain as well, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, so what I think partly because I had the experience with James and James when I was doing the sort of fulfillment experiment. Mm-hmm. I think that's how I treated it at the time. Even let's experiment and experience. I think I learned about what goes on behind the scenes and a little bit. But I think that a lot of people that go into creating things that will need to be shipped to a lot of people. I mean, even in the hundreds, all over the world, on crowd funding platforms like Kickstarter and all that. They don't think about fulfillment and shipping up front.
It's an afterthought. It's always going to be an afterthought to a certain extent, because, of course, if you don't meet your funding targets or if you don't get your designs right, then you're going to have no fulfillment.
Yeah, we're going to deal with this later, or we're only going to need to ship 100 or 200. We're just going to do it in the garage or in the spare room, and we'll invite a couple of friends for some beers, and we'll just do it, and it'll be fine. Then it's successful, and then there's 2,000, and then all of a sudden there's
run out of space in the garage.
Yeah, but there's a whole lot of other issues and shipping and things. So what I say, and it's completely. I mean, it is that it is. As true as it can be, is that shipping, the part where it leaves here until it reaches the destination, is the least reliable part of my operation. I can control everything up to then, but then I'm giving it to somebody else. Yeah. Actually, when I'm dropping off the sacks at the Royal Mail, I'm not actually giving it to the person who's actually going to take it further. It's
it's someone going to throw it on a pile somewhere.
Yeah, just it was weird the first couple of times because there was in Bermondsey where I was, and there was this tiny thing, and they're just leave it there. Just leave it there, and we're like, I've worked so hard on this, you know. I was just like,
I'll just wait with it
till
I see you go on the van.
I actually, I kind of I lingered around the thing just to see nobody's taking the sex,
like a nervous parent just sending the child off to school. For the
it was, and then. Because I'm sending local second class, it takes 2 days, and till now there's a sort of sigh of relief that once people say that they've received it, and we're like, okay, it moved that step of between me dropping it and to the thing, yeah. So where was I going with this? Yes, so people don't. It's an afterthought. People don't realize, and then, yeah. So now I remember what I said. The least reliable part of thing, and the frustrating part is that there is no way of incrementally making it reliable. There is either you're shipping untracked, or you're shipping it tracked, but it costs shit ton of money. And even then, it's not, it might not appear, but at least you have you can take some action if things don't work out, or if somebody comes to you and asks, where is it? You go, well, it's tracked, whatever. In the case of the club, because of the price of what I sell, if I had to include tracked shipping in the cost, it would be 50% or 30%, or maybe even quarter if on the best case of the product. It doesn't. Yeah. So there is that jump, and maybe that jump is what catches people. They go, oh, shipping. I've been shipping stuff. It costs like £1 or £2 or $1 or whatever, and then they go like, oh, times 500. Okay, fine. And then they realize that they have to send tracked, and then just call UPS. UPS doesn't want to talk to us because it's not enough.
It's a one-off.
Yeah,
no one likes a spike load.
And then so. What do you have? What are your thoughts about this? Are there any recommendations? I mean, we did discuss one thing just earlier when we were chatting off camera about the size of the packet, right? That makes a difference. But we can talk about anything else. Do you have a recommendation for people who might be?
It's an afterthought, right? But it doesn't. It also is the sole purpose of a whole industry, And so you can infer from that while it is an afterthought, it's not a very short afterthought. There are a lot of things to think about afterwards. That you can do it in a more complicated, less complicated way, more expensive, a less expensive way. Fine. But if your intent is to be successful, it really warrants speaking to someone who's got some expertise, having considered the fulfillment stuff before. Whether or not in the end you choose to fulfill in-house or to outsource some fulfillment, you might as well go and waste some time with some fulfillment house to get them to put you in the right ballpark, because they'll know off the top of their head things that you, as a designer of product, won't necessarily consider as part of your design. So the one that you were alluding to there is the if you're in the UK and you're shipping by Royal Mail Services, there is a large letter or flat, which has a very specific dimension constraint, which is about an inch thick and then slightly less than A4 sized in the other dimensions.
Yeah.
If you can get under that, there's a massive step change down in price. So conversely, if you have something which you've designed to not quite fold down to under an inch, even if it's just a tiny amount thicker, and maybe just a tiny amount thicker in one corner, you can step up your costs by, well, double to start off with, if it's a very light or small item.
Because then it becomes a parcel.
Because then it becomes a parcel, which means actually a box that's 27 centimeters on each side costs significantly more to ship than almost half of a.
People maybe, I mean, say associate shipping costs more with weight. Then maybe intuitively you go like, oh, but it's so light, it can't cost that much. But a lot of it has to do with the form factor, not the weight.
It does. So weight takes over at the higher end, because by the time you're actually paying someone to lug something around, it's the weight that chooses how overloaded their lorry can be. But for non-dense stuff,
because if you go to like sometimes I ship through Parcel Monkey. It's a UK thing. It's like an aggregator for shipping. That they will have the account right with those shipping things. And
so there's an equivalent for that in the States called Easy Post that we use for some things.
So you see that the minimum is 1 kilogram, right, of weight. So anything up to a kilogram doesn't matter. I mean, you could ship. So if the Boldport stuff is normally. It'll range between 50 and 80 grams a packet. So the weight
it's all volume at that point.
Yeah,
it's all about how you set your form factor.
And I was lucky enough, I guess, perhaps through our interaction, I can't remember, with the fulfillment, that I knew this. I knew that I had to keep it under, for the club, to keep it under 25 millimeters. And like you said, consider it from the beginning. That means that you have to, when you're sitting and sketching out your project, you need to think about the components that will fit under that thing, right? Now, as a designer, or a designer would say, well, it's I think there's things you could do to fold things, to be under that thing, because the difference is so significant between that large letter and
if you're
parcel.
in the region, that's definitely worth considering. I mean, there's some obvious products where you're never going to be
like
there.
A mug.
You're never folding down the mug.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, you might do, but that won't work. But so there's definitely, there are these little boundaries that you can cross that people in the fulfillment industry will have much more fluent understanding of. So that other areas of the spectrum, like if you're doing something that's very, very large, there are other constraints around, like a wrapped width and a length calculation that you can do that sort stuff into buckets. So it actually can be better to have boxes of a different aspect for that type of shipping. If you're going internationally, there is a balance between so that one, once it's not the trivial small light case, they'll charge you for weight, but they'll also charge you for what's called volumetric weight, which is a set of annoyingly non-standard calculations you can do to the volumetric size of the container that gives you a kilogram weight, and they choose the maximum of those two, which means essentially at any point, if you're not keeping those two in balance, you're actually wasting a bit of potential space or wasting a bit of potential weight that you could have used anyway. So there are definitely insights to be drawn out of that I would imagine no individual seller has the time, wherewithal, or access to be able to get, because these things there's genuinely no book for this. The systems are very, very disparate on the side of the carriers, and even to try and get documentation on some of this stuff has been a tooth and nail process for us over a period of years, and some trial and error involved in just sending stuff into the system to see what it gets treated like.
Yeah, I think what you said about going and talking to an expert, or to a fulfillment company before. Firstly, even if you end up not using a fulfillment service and your project is just sending 200, you will have learned a lot that will help you. But you can say that about a lot of other things. So it's not just the shipping; it's security, it's manufacturability.
Yep. The difference, I guess, with the fulfillment is there is a plausible market case for fulfillment always being better than you at fulfillment. Yeah. With some exceptions where you look at customized things, sometimes with a volume issue, if you're really not shipping that much, or if you're shipping 1 million items on day one and then never releasing the product again. Those are all kind of non-starters as far as getting an extra party into the chain. However, most fulfillment companies can justify their position in that because they're so able to get cheaper costs.
Right.
So just in a pure cost calculation, they have so much more scale than any individual, and particularly half the cost of fulfillment is going to be shipping. As a rule of thumb, you'll pay about half postage, and they can get such aggressive rates through volume, and they can make better selections because, of course, once you're shipping volume, you actually open up new types of service, which becomes particularly relevant around tracking. That there are services you can't buy over the counter that fulfillment houses can have if they're over a certain amount. And if you were a very large company, you might be able to access them directly by saying, hey, we've got a very consistent, here's our output, here's the volumes, here's the types of places we ship it to. But because we have a whole range of sellers under one roof, we tend to be able to slice up the postage we send out and find a more optimized fashion to send out every one. That means if someone comes to us with a product that already fits one of our existing optimized categories for shipping, so for example 2 to 5 kilograms tracked to the States, we've got a price for that. We've negotiated a price for that specific thing, and if you have that, there's no way you're getting close to the price we've got on that for your parcels by themselves, because they have to go with our other 1,000 that we send on a daily basis.
I agree. I mean, what you're saying, as opposed to security and manufacturability and all that, it's a solved problem that that is well understood, and it's not there's no unique, but you can always put it into the category and the box and say this is how much it's going to.
You can rule yourself out of that, I guess, by making your fulfillment requirements non-compartmentalizable, and make them unique to your business. In the same way as your security or your design might be unique facet of your product. If you do that, and there are good reasons to, for example, Boldport Club particularly has this feeling of interaction, this feeling of proximity, and wanting to have a very close tactile feedback and relationship with people on the other end. It would be weird to have a fulfillment company in the middle and to do everything slightly at arm's length. And I'm sure there are other reasons as well where you want highly customized items, so everything going out a little bit differently, and that's part of your value proposition. If you're an Etsy shop and you're trying to show a lovely homemade set of whatevers, you'd like them to be slightly variable. You'd like them different colours on every one, but the warehouse will freak out because it's not able to stick to its processes. So while there are good reasons for not doing it, it's worth checking whether those are actually core competences of the business before trying to make a case for doing a specialist, something weird for fulfillment. And if you then, in the case where what you're doing is actually quite standard, your ability to go and get information out of a fulfillment company is pretty high, because they're ready to quote you aggressively on that type of product. They're ready to slot it into their system, let it go. And because they're confident they might be able to get your business, they'll probably give you quite a lot of time up front. So you can learn from them the category, you can learn from them the folding technique, you can learn from them the box type or the new packaging style that, there are several different ways of packaging large letters to optimize for space and to optimize for protection. So if you're sending something shatterable or something that breaks. Anyway.
Every project that we send, I learn I learn new things about, particularly what you just said, the amount of work that it takes to do something. You think sometimes, well, let's just add a sticker onto, or let's just have a nice sticker on the thing, and it sounds nice and all that, but then it adds a few seconds to each thing. You need
to have the stickers.
You need to have the stickers. You have to wait for
replenishing
them.
the stickers.
And then I think every little thing. So we have one project that needs to fold. It comes flat packed, the box for the project, and you need to fold. It takes a non-trivial amount of time when you need to do 600 of them. And if not, then if flat packed is nice because it sits on your shelf nicely, but the ones that come assembled, they're more expensive, but you don't have to assemble them. You don't have to pay someone to assemble.
Yeah. And
so those kind of there were a few projects earlier on that were so labor intensive that you can't. I say, okay, I made those mistakes, so it's only time.
Yeah.
We do it, and but next time I'm definitely not going to do these things the way I have to glue 3 pieces of thing together.
There's a good reason to do things differently, right? Business would be very boring, and it'd be very hard to get anyone interested in what you were doing if it just looked like a cookie cutter style business. So
I mean, within some constraints, of course, you want to do. There's sometimes, like I said before, as somebody who creates things that are meant to be interesting to people, you go, well, I'm not going to compromise on that. If it's going to cost another day of labor, then that's what it is. It is what it is. There's no, and you can always shave things and make it cheaper or compromise on certain things. But then you lose focus of what you're doing, or at least what I want to be doing. So there was I wanted to lead the conversation to I can't remember now.
We're talking Kickstarter.
Yeah. So I mean, right. So you try to talk to people. It's part of the planning to just understand. I mean, sometimes people are so optimistic about costs that they also don't they don't factor enough, and then the little margin
profit on their
the little margin that they have the thing, because they go like, oh, we'll just have, like I said before, we'll have a few friends doing this, but then it becomes something, and then once you need to pay people to do it. But Kickstarter, a lot of the Kickstarter campaigns are just people are paying for other people to educate themselves on productizing something.
Exactly, it's a great funded degree course, isn't it? Not got a great pass rate, unfortunately, from that particular part of education.
I mean, people will have been burnt and learned, and their next project's going to be fine. But there will be those contributors, funders. What do you call them on Kickstarter? Backers. Yeah. That paid somebody's education. Yeah. For somebody's education, and sometimes I feel that doesn't reflect that well on people that try to seem like they know what they're doing.
You can tell that there's a problem when they have that huge blurb at the bottom of every Kickstarter page, which is risks, the expectations and risks. And Kickstarter developers, they thought, well, we can't teach them anything, but we can at least make them answer some questions publicly to show how much or little they know. Yeah. And you can tell the people who get it because their risks are written like a risk register. Yeah. You think, okay.
And then there's the people who just make jokes. There could be a meteor hitting the Earth, so I won't be able to ship.
And that's when you back them, because they need your funding for their education.
So. What other things that what other pitfalls can you think of that people can be prepared? I mean, I did talk to somebody recently that they had a sack or two disappear when they shipped untracked.
That's a nightmare scenario.
That is. I mean,
so we should have
lost
lots
a
of
little bit
sacks.
sleep. Yeah,
And we've never, to our knowledge, lost a single sack. It would be,
I haven't either. But so it must have been like a freak. Because how do you lose a sack and not find it?
The shipping services all have their warehouses of shame, where unloved, unwanted, and unrecognised parcels end up being swept and then eventually sorted out. So my assumption would always be they will find it. What they do with it when they find it will be a function of who finds it and how much they think they're going to lose their job if they admit having found it, and whether it's worth just putting into the bin. Not to slander any particular shipping company. I think that's closer to a kind of folktale horror story than it is to anything someone should really be considering.
Right.
It's not something you can defend against easily.
There's nothing you can do.
I don't think we face those problems, and we have a large view, if only one perspective view of the industry. We work with a lot of different carriers, and while there are variability in terms of how often they get the job done right, my sense is there's nothing an individual can do. A fulfillment company has, or a large client has, a bit more clout. We have access to higher levels of support, and we are able to claim essentially on faith. We can tell someone that we want a return, and with some clients, with some shippers, you end up with an agreement where you tot up the number of times they were wrong, and they give you a discount.
Right.
It's almost proofless.
Yeah.
And therefore it's only given to people who spend sufficient amount of money that actually there is a rounding error for them to give a few percentages off of our bill.
Yeah.
In order for us never to bother their support people, and essentially it's insurance against them messing up.
Yeah.
Even then, I don't think I don't think that type of giant mystery happens so often. I think the piece that seems to go wrong the most, and it goes wrong a lot, an annoying amount, is that last mile delivery.
Yeah.
It's so variable between companies, it's so variable between drivers on shifts, it's variable in weather conditions, it's variable on vans breaking down. It's so fragile, and they're really pushed at that end to try and make deliveries first time, which means they can be optimistic and they can be a little bit blind, and so they end up posting it to the same number on a different street. It's not impossible. Yeah. Throwing it over a fence into a pond they didn't know was there, perfectly possible. I think that's the point where it's most stressed, but that shows itself as being an individual problem for an individual person.
I had a delivery for here from my PCB supplier, and normally when I'm waiting for these packages, I'm anxious. I wanted to get them. I want to test them.
Oh, you're one of those customers. Okay. The ones you were criticizing.
Oh yeah.
Okay, great.
No, I mean, I want them here. I want to look at them. No, I'm not. Nothing special.
Just checking.
And then I go to the thing, delivered. Didn't come here.
Yep. Yeah.
And then checked, looked, knocked on all the doors around here, and tried to figure out where it went. Called up the supplier, said, "Look, it's not."
I think I can guess where this went.
Okay.
Can I try and preempt your story? Because this is not. This sounds like the start of a story I've heard many times.
Yeah. Tell me.
I understand that many of the carriers.
This was UPS.
At the shop.
I'm able to say, yeah.
Okay, UPS. We don't work so much with UPS, but I bet this transfers. The highly systemized carriers have very strict performance targets for their workers. And they are. It's actually incentivized that they lie to the system occasionally to keep their numbers up to allow them to continue on a route, because they're so locked into what they have to do that sometimes they'll mark something as delivered to get onto the next one that they've thought in their head actually they're so far behind they might as well cut across town to get these ones on time, and they'll work out a kind of optimum number of things to screw up by lying to the system, and by the time this runs back through customer services they'll have done the retry.
Okay,
so
no, that's not what happened.
Okay, it's not that.
But it doesn't. No, I mean no. Well, we can discuss. I mean, so then day one, I'm calling the supplier and saying, look, it's not your. We have a very good relationship. It's not. We're just trying to resolve this. And then could have gone to a different address. My previous address somehow. trying to figure out what might have happened, and nothing. It's just, okay, they're investigating because it's better for them because they ship all their stuff with UPS, so they won't talk to me.
Harder, yeah.
And so I was this morning, kind of day one. Don't know where it is, and it's in if it exists somewhere, that's great because then I could go pick it up. But if it doesn't exist, if something happened and I need to redo the circuit boards,
to do that.
No, I need to do it as soon as possible, and I need to work out with the supplier how to do that because it's it's a big order. These order I would have ordered 600 PCBs. It's not a quick job. Anyway, enough of the suspense. The next. It's kind of day 2 during lunch. I get a phone call from someone, from a lady, and asking if I am if I'm Boldport and thing. So apparently, it's a unit in this industrial complex that the UPS guy just gave her 2 packages instead of 1.
Oh.
Signed it. They put it in their warehouse, and one of them was mine.
He must have scanned both and therefore marked both as delivered.
Yes.
That won't be ambiguous to the delivery driver at that point. He will have known because they have to do a separate process for each delivery.
And what I thought, my initial explanation. Now, the lady she explained, and understandable. I'm not she noticed it, but then she forgot to pursue it, and then the UPS guy came again the next day. And then she remembered, so she made the call. So, but it's just went there and picked it up. We drove there a couple of minutes. So it's a big industrial estate here. So what I assumed immediately was it was conceivable that they also would have received circuit boards. So I thought it might have been the same supplier sent 2 packages, one for me and one for them, and it somehow got thing. But it wasn't the case. It was they didn't get that package. They didn't get it from the same supplier. So that was a long story, but that happened. Now, luckily I try to operate in a way that I have time margin, so it didn't it ate up a day, but it wasn't. I can recover from that. So there's just an example of all the kind of stuff that could go wrong. Now, whether the UPS driver
he knew,
he
was thinking about something else and needed a shortcut. It's definitely the case.
Okay.
Those little handhelds, they give absolute instructions on the way through. There's almost nothing you can do apart from lying to them to get on with your day, which is why there's this incentive.
So it was like, I'll just drop it here, they'll sort it out.
Maybe just an optimistic kind of. Yeah. I couldn't find that one, but I'll deliver it somewhere on the site and it'll work. But they would have had to get 2 separate signatures for 2 different consignments that definitely weren't to the same address because they would show the address
right
kind of in the middle.
What I did notice since then that the UPS now just drops the stuff. It doesn't come up anymore.
Well, they know they've been called out. Now.
So maybe it's a coincidence. Maybe I don't know, but there's been I don't know. It's stressful.
It is a bit. I think it's because there's this anticipation of failure. Everyone's had a bad experience, and everyone has nothing good to say about at least one of the carriers. Therefore, every time you put that wish out there, hope that the universe provides something, you know that the last mile of that is being done by Dave, who's having a bad day and has 101 other places to be, and it's just been stuck in traffic. And you just really, really hope that Dave goes over and above what he's paid to do to actually get that parcel all the way to you. But you're rolling the dice every time.
But surprisingly, things mostly work.
On average, it's great.
Yeah.
that's cold comfort to the people who are in the unlucky 1% who have frequent problems with this.
Well, what I tell my supplier when things don't arrive on time, because I've had quite a few UPS, because that's most of the regular shipments that I get that misrouted or something like that. They
That's an internal issue, right?
Internal issue. Funny thing is, I go and moan about it on Twitter, and then the UPS support comes and goes, "Oh, give us your thing, and we'll help you out." The first time I gave it, "Oh, sorry, okay." They checked the tracking just like I can, and it's like, "Yeah, we didn't think it'll arrive tomorrow, or let us know." And then you go, "You guys are useless. I mean, there's nothing. How can you help?" It's just
you can do what I can do, and you can be more apologetic about it.
So that happens. Yeah, the last mile, is this what you call it? The last mile, or the last?
It's the end of the delivery. I think last mile is a broadband term.
It is. Yes,
yeah,
it is. That's why I was.
I assume I'm just co-opting that for something it's not meant to mean. But I mean the bit that gets it from the hub.
Yeah.
Into the final van.
Yeah.
With the final dude who's got a PDA and he goes through your door.
What's the role of Amazon here?
They want all of your money. All of your customers. Sorry, was that a narrower question than the one I answered?
Yes.
Okay.
Good.
What does Amazon have to say about the fulfillment stuff?
Amazon sets a very somewhat high, unrealistic expectation for the rest of us because, and mostly you, that things just arrive the next day for free.
Yep.
Because Prime, it used to be for shipping, but it's now music and video and many other things. So
you lose track of what you paid for what.
Yeah, you're not. It's not associated with faster shipping. It just arrives the next day, and if you can order it late and get it. So how do they? How does that impact your business?
It confuses people. I think in the same way as Amazon Prime sets this slightly confusing, wrapped up experience for the end user, that basically no chain of seller and fulfillment company and delivery network can really emulate as consistently, because by definition there's more gaps in between, and also each of them is trying to make money where Amazon are not trying to make money. Amazon are trying to have more customers permanently. So it's hard to say exactly how much you pay for any part of Amazon, but given that a lot of the stuff that they're selling they buy at better prices than anyone else can touch, they favour their own listings compared to anyone else. They don't have to be cheaper, they just have to be higher up on the list, and they have an seemingly unlimited pool of data to choose exactly what they sell at exactly what price. They make all their money on the sale, and the corresponding things that could put you off buying, like worrying about postage, like worrying about payment, like worrying about anything really, they just sweep it away. They want you to just want it, think the price is good enough and buy it. So they set an unrealistic expectation for consumers about how online shopping should work, because their priorities are different from normal individual retailers who need to make money to stay in business. Amazon don't need to make money to stay in business. They print money when they need it and stay in everyone's businesses. In terms of how that affects us in the fulfillment market, it sets a slightly unreasonable expectation from some of our potential clients. And those tend to be those who are, for the most part, selling on Amazon itself. Because the things that Amazon do that compete with us most directly is a product called FBA, Fulfillment by Amazon. You might have seen it. Because those also get put, not quite at the top of the list, but second top of the list, behind the Amazon listings, above anyone else's listings. If you fulfill by Amazon, you're essentially using them to do what you could use my company to do. You store your stock with them, you obey their rules about barcoding and all this kind of stuff, and they'll ship it out at your instruction, but they'd much rather ship it out when someone buys it through their website. I
have a question with this in this regard. So, would someone be able to be fulfilled by Amazon without a listing on Amazon?
Yes.
Okay.
So Amazon, you can do it all permutations and combinations. So think about selling on Amazon, think about fulfilling by Amazon. You can sell but not fulfill.
Yes.
You can obviously sell and fulfill.
Yes.
So sell but not sell and fulfill with us.
Yeah.
Oh no, sell on Amazon, fulfill with Amazon. Great. Sell on Shopify or something.
Yeah.
Some platform you like, or your own website, whatever you want. Fulfill by Amazon,
Okay.
or do neither.
And then it won't come into this Amazon Prime thing.
It always comes in Amazon boxes.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Even if you didn't sell on Amazon?
So what is my assertion made earlier that Amazon is interested in doing?
Yeah, getting
Owning all of your customers and taking all of your money.
So
Why
they
would
want to
Amazon
know-
do anything?
So they want the end customer to know that Amazon is part of this.
They want the Amazon the end customer to be plausibly confused that what they've purchased might have actually been from Amazon. So
Okay.
next time, where are they going to go?
Right.
So there are specific things about Amazon's FBA service which, for the most part, if a client wants to use them, they'll use them, and if the client wants to use us, to use us. And the thing that basically is the acid test is, can you accept your products going out in an Amazon box? Can you accept them having leaflets in them from Amazon, which could be advertising competitive products? Because both of those things are in the Amazon terms of FBA, last time I read them.
I realized that Amazon sort of owns me in terms of a consumer.
You seem happy about that.
Well, there was one thing that you didn't say that Amazon dominates is in customer service.
Yep.
All the anxiety around customer service doesn't exist with Amazon, and it's a non-trivial part of the decision making of whether to buy Amazon, whether to buy, because I look whether it's an Amazon sold and fulfilled.
If you have a problem with it, you just say, "I want another one." They send you another one,
or shipping back and thing. Now, so there's that. So I have mixed feelings about my situation with Amazon, but it's really hard to argue that. I mean, there is the I need something tomorrow for a price that I know that is good.
Yep.
And then there is is this good for the world? Am I this kind of person type of thing, right?
I don't dislike. I'm saying things that sound critical. I don't think they're criticisms per se. I think it's just worth being clear when what they want more than your money is you.
Yeah.
And the reason I like Amazon is because they're programmed to make me like them. That's why when I say I don't like it, it's way past the expiry date and I've eaten half of it. Yeah. And they say, well, just refund it. You keep the rest. And I go, hold on. So they got none of my money. I ate half the stuff. Yeah. Didn't like it. Yeah. And I got my money back again. Yeah. This is great. I like them now. And they've got me as a consequence, which is great business.
I said owned. I mean, that was just, I'm aware.
Yeah,
at least, I think. But when I became aware of this, I became aware that they now are where I go to shop things online, is when I replaced searching on the Google bar with searching on the Amazon.com, .co.uk.
You're in too deep.
You
need an intervention at this point.
So when I needed something, I didn't go search Google and then looked at the options of where I could shop. I go to the Amazon thing and I look what's there, and then there's the reviews. I know that I'm familiar with the system. I'm familiar with the customer support. There is none of that. Oh, is this a reputable supplier and all that? Is it good? No. I mean, I'd like to support smaller independent businesses, but it might be different if I'm shopping for stuff for home, but for the business,
no one got fired from buying from Amazon.
Yeah, I mean, it gets here the next day. I don't need to sing the benefits, but dude, I don't like the fact that it is the
dominant.
The dominant. Yeah. There's only one option. No, there's always options. It's not their fault that they are. There are the things with the taxes and all that. I mean,
you could vote with your feet on that issue, but I don't think you can vote with your feet on how well they treat you as a client.
I mean, but if the alternative is now I sort of need to get to vet a supplier or to even if it's just an online retailer and to see how well they work and then I would order and with some old school things that they'll send you a pro forma and then you have to thing and or you order online but then it only gets shipped 2 days later and it arrives three.
You can see why you make the choice. I mean, that we're attempting as a business to prop up clients who are trying to face that level of customer kind of how do we trust you compared to Amazon? How do we have confidence in your processes?
I mean, I would expect this to be somewhat of a sensitive, the discussion of a sensitive nature because, but why do people come to you and not Amazon? I mean, I think there's a few obvious reasons.
Why do our clients, the sellers, come to us?
Well, I think what do you offer that?
We are price competitive with Amazon in most categories.
Okay.
There are some things we can't offer them, like we can't push them higher up the Amazon rankings. Yeah. So for clients who rely on Amazon for bulk of their sales, it would be risky for them to move away from Amazon's fulfillment because they'll see a corresponding fall in their listings. So those are the kind of that's an indisputable thing. What's indisputable in our favor is that Amazon do this branding and co-leafleting. They're allowed to do it on everything when you ship it, and they show no signs of wanting to go to a kind of white labeled service.
Right.
That's a deal breaker for a lot of companies. Again, depending on how they position themselves, if they're just a buyer and a seller shop without too much branding on it, who cares? You want the easiest way. Great, that Amazon might have you covered there. Amazon will also eat your lunch at a later date, but that's not always a motivating.
So if you wanted to send a product in a custom shipping box, Amazon is as a ruled out
correct
categorically.
Correct.
Okay.
And correspondingly, things have to fit into Amazon's pipe. Amazon have a fantastic fulfillment system that they've spent a long time customizing for their ends. That means they have their expected inputs and their expected outputs. You have to match exactly their expected inputs and their expected outputs. And there's actually a fantastic video you could search for online that will show you what their FBA sellers have to do, including this scolding man that keeps turning up whenever the box comes in with the wrong label or too big a label or too small a label. This man comes along as a supervisor and takes it away, and then it tells you, we will charge you for this, we will charge you for that. So they're pretty restrictive in terms of what they will accept in. It has to be exactly to their specification, including the point of they will force you to label them with a specific label, which can be a deal breaker again. It depends what kind of product category you're in, whether they can rely on more generic stuff like ISBN numbers on books or standard DVD markings or whatever. But yeah, there can be a lot more friction getting your goods to Amazon in the way that Amazon says is good. And if you miss just slightly, they're quite punitive about it because they're very keen on not being misunderstood when it comes to getting things right. So that's at a kind of friction and fit for the business. Those are the things that I think best differentiate us from the Amazon service. Once you get past that, you're into the softer stuff like the ability to customize, the fluency with which you can use our systems, how well our systems integrate first party with the various selling channels. Because of course, Amazon doesn't go and get your orders from eBay for you. Amazon doesn't, I think, go and get your orders from Shopify for you. You tend to rely on more middleware that's doing a pull from one and a push the other, whereas we have a more direct relationship with the shopping channels. With the larger ones, we have existing connections to suck orders out, and for anything else, we have an API which orders can be pushed into. So it's a little bit of it's less done by someone else's book. Yes, we have a menu of options. Our menu is longer, slightly tastier, leaves you feeling more satisfied.
But okay, you've done it to pitch now.
That's the difference. I think it's important. You can understand all this if you understand that Amazon does not care about doing fulfillment for anyone else. But it's a really neat way of getting more customers to see your logo if you do the fulfillment service, and they're doing it anyway, which means it's not a losing exercise for them. It only moves people in one direction, which makes sellers more likely to stay with Amazon and buyers more likely to go and shop on Amazon.
Yeah.
Great
to see. Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit like poaching in a way, right? I mean, poaching your customers
For sure.
business,
But
right?
you know Amazon do this they've done the selling side as well, right? Macy's famously 3, maybe more years ago now, Macy's had a massive public spat with Amazon because they detected that they were losing out in their main product categories. They'd famously moved on to Amazon, this big
For
announcement.
fulfillment.
No, for selling. They were opening a
Macy's in the
storefront,
US.
big US retail giant.
Yeah.
They're opening a storefront on Amazon.
Ah, okay.
I don't know the fulfillment situation, but the thing that they were doing, which is similar to what you're talking about, this poaching of stuff.
Yeah.
They were systematically discovering suppliers to Macy by seeing what was coming in the door. They were systematically discovering customers, price points, selling volumes. They were finding all the most profitable ones, and then they would suddenly,
Create their own.
overnight, 50 different top-selling products dropped to second in the list, and Amazon put in their own. It was indistinguishable. It was the same price. They
Yeah.
made all the money, and
Yeah.
Macy, once they proved this was going on, very publicly criticised Amazon and pulled it, saying, "You're using our data against us. You're stealing the customers that came here for our stuff, and you're stealing our supply chains to boot because we've given
And
you all this
what
information."
happened?
They pulled it. They're not on it anymore. I don't believe you can buy Macy's
Right.
stuff on Amazon because they basically said,
So Amazon
We're
won
not doing your
basically.
well, they won some of it. I mean, obviously they could have played it differently, I guess, to
Yeah.
get the information without rocking the boat.
Yeah.
I wonder if they expected that they could do it slowly enough that no one would
Yeah.
notice as they displaced each of their categories.
Yeah.
It's a tricky one.
It's a weird one. Yeah, I know. I agree. This certain like love-hate relationship in a way. I mean, like you have with Ryanair. Not you, but
I think I know what you mean. Although I feel different. Like there's different kinds of love and hates are, and the
no, love and
I
hate
feel
is
for
too
Amazon-
strong. It's too strong, love and hate. But you kind of no. You know what? It's not like Ryanair. With Ryanair, you go like,
It's a grin and bear it with Ryanair.
yeah,
And
yeah.
you know
yeah,
you're getting
exactly.
something that's subpar, but you know you're not paying enough to get something
Yeah.
that is par.
Yeah.
Whereas Amazon's, it's this feeling like this isn't going to cause me a problem today, but when the revolution comes,
I'm gonna pay.
it's that feeling. It's like a karmic. You're definitely spending some karma every time you shop with Amazon consciously,
Oh dear.
and it's just a question of when that's coming back to bite you, and if it's worth.
Are there any emerging competitors? I mean, or
For Amazon?
Yeah.
I mean, competing with Amazon is a weird thing to consider given how many things they do in how many ways. So Amazon's biggest revenue or biggest profit is from their web services, AWS stuff. So they're,
Oh, yeah.
if
they
you think
don't-
about where they're making
Yeah,
their money, their
yeah,
competitors are Rackspace
Yeah.
or Azure or
Yeah.
Google Cloud Platform,
Yeah.
all of which have been just dwarfed by
Yeah.
their scale in that. They're into everything. And actually, a lot of the things that they built to enable Amazon.com to work at that scale, all the ancillary services, they've done it in a very neat, packaged up way. That means that all the components are now valuable too.
Yeah.
You know, they're selling,
Yeah.
selling the ingredients.
Yeah. I mean, AWS was. I might have. It might be apocryphal, or I might not have remember correctly. But they started it out as a tool that they needed, and then created it into something that they offer. No.
I don't know when it started being
Internally.
named separately from Amazon, but yeah, it was made to host very large scale Amazon shop fronts in different territories without with giving some sort of programmatic control. And I know at some point a famous memo went out from Bezos saying every department will publish an API. Every department will only do what's on the API. All departments are required to use the public APIs. No back channels, no cheating. You'll be fired in like 12 months or something ludicrous if this is not upheld. Take this very seriously. And it's that kind of proper tone of I've decided how this is going. And you can see the effect of it, which is it's an ugly, relatively inconsistent, bristling API set where you can literally see every cog and gear turning. It's brutally unsympathetic for someone who's an outsider, but you can see where every team has basically just taken all the stuff they were working on and just flipped it out into this mass of, well, you asked for it, here's everything we do, here's all the buttons to press, and you can see them dressing layers over the top of that of wizards and managers and auto configurations that go and press the 101 buttons in the exact right order to make something clever happen. And it turns out that level of total isolation of every bit of the function has served them exceptionally well, because now someone can come along and just use them for hosting, or just use them for database, or just use them for container storage, or they've got huge half the assets in the world are hosted on S3 storage. They're getting into the cloud compute game, they're getting into artificial intelligence, net training and whatever, all as these services that they stitch together and use for their own nefarious purposes.
Yes.
But you're welcome to take any subset of and stitch together for your nefarious purposes.
So I wanted, one of the things that I wanted to discuss, and I think we discussed it back in the day, was what attracted you towards this particular thing.
So you said something really mean earlier on, which I think I'm not going to make you repeat, but you essentially accused fulfillment and warehousing of being unsexy, which I contest. As if sexiness is a reason for choosing to do anything particular. Okay, so if the question is why this came out of a discovery that this industry existed, from not knowing this industry existed.
Can we talk? I mean, there is somewhat of an interesting story about what you did before.
Which one?
I'm afraid to say things you might not want. The thing there was something with plants.
Okay, that's unrelated to fulfillment, but I can go there.
There was no link between.
Well, so in as much as I've worked with other James of James and James fame for a number of years now. Should probably try and get this right. So we're doing James and James since 2010, that's 8 years, and then 3 years before that we started doing a company called Bloombox, which was to do with containerized gardening. That is the world-changing concept that no one actually wants to do gardening, but everyone wants the effect of gardening. Why don't we just plug and play gardens? Like just make all the plants interchangeable, seasonally swap things out, and you can imagine a garden arriving in the back of a truck and failing units being lifted out and cared for centrally, all the planting being done on conveyor belts and warehouses. This sounded like some bizarre utopian/dystopian dream, and we started engaging with this problem by doing something very straightforward, which was selling hanging baskets, swappable containerized planting, to pubs. Institutions that want hanging baskets. As you would
right after graduating, or
well, you stick to what you know, don't you?
Yeah, in Cambridge.
I'd seen a hanging basket somewhere before that I could remember. Anyway, we did that. That was an interesting exercise in following an idea through its logical conclusion, and then discovering that its logical conclusion was not a functioning business. Well, it was a functioning business selling hanging baskets to pubs.
Yeah, and
actually, that worked. It made some money. It made some money twice a year. And you had to work out what to do with the rest of your life. In between, we tried to kind of leverage all the interest we were getting, because we had a van that had a plant on it. It turned out people just call your phone number and say, do you do gardening? And we say, no. And then we started saying, yes.
Yeah.
And then looking at each other thinking, do we do gardening? And then going and trying to do some gardening. It turns out you can get away with doing some gardening, but we needed some advice. And then when we realised we weren't very good at it, we got a gardener. And he was not particularly organised. And wanted more customers. So we put the two together. We left all the material out to suggest that we were gardeners, and whenever we got a lead, we just organised a diary entry for him and sent him on the road.
Yeah.
So we ended up working together. He was an employee of the company, and as we were trying desperately to work out what to do between hanging basket cycles, we grew a modestly successful gardening business, and with occasional hanging basket flurries in Cambridge. And after a couple of years, it was probably 2.5 years, it became clear this was not going anywhere. We pushed this as hard as we knew how. We found the original concept didn't work, and what was existing didn't scale. Because essentially gardening suffers on the VAT line. It's very economical to do it as a sole contractor. It's very economical to keep under VAT. But because it's all labour, essentially, if you as a company go above that 60k, you lose 20% of your 20% off the top, and you've got nothing to offset it. So it's much more economical for individual gardeners to go around doing their stuff as individuals than it is to scale that up. And then you find at the other end, hanging baskets for pubs are provided by PHS, who provide the sanitary bins and the hand towels. And they just come on the same van.
Oh, really?
Dump the hanging baskets up, throw their... So it's just consumable,
Yeah.
replaceable, disposable nonsense.
It's just another tick box on the order form.
I think it is just another tick box in the order form. That was the most depressing realization, was to be able to scale, that's where you have to go. You have to go to being a tragically commoditized thing, and that really wasn't what we were selling. We were trying to be much higher end than that. Anyway, so how does that get to the fulfillment thing? Well, when you don't have a lot to do, and when you don't think you should be draining money out of this gardening company for not doing very much gardening and not knowing what to do, we ended up basically leaving Andy, who's the gardener, to run the company and stop taking pay. I went and did some little coding projects, because that's kind of what I like. And James Hyde ended up doing operations consultancy, management-y thing for a very small company in Cambridge that sell fancy, organic-y, New Zealand tasty products, food products. So mostly around honeys and flaxes and wheats and grasses and things that make you feel good.
Okay.
And they had some really interesting products, a good angle on it, and they had a pair of brothers on either sides of the world, one doing the production, one doing the sales. So great little business, really pushing hard to become a bigger business and getting into these other channels, selling online particularly. You can imagine health foods around the late aughties just coming to their stride online. So they were having good fun there. I was playing around with making websites and conversion tools and automatic retention emailing and stuff like that to try and automate this sales process. And James Hyde was working on the operations and supply chain and things like that. But I mean, we were the office essentially between the two of us, the owner, his wife, and a rotating crew of other temps and interns, working mostly out of their living room. That's when we first caught sight of this fulfillment thing. We didn't know what it was, and we didn't know what it was called, but we knew it was painful, because the company they used, obviously they weren't shipping out of their living room at this point, were very, very bad at it. And we were tasked to try and improve them. Couldn't. To give you context, very, very bad for a fulfillment company. You might not know how far this can go.
Thanks.
They shipped a whole day of orders out twice. So they received the orders. They basically downloaded them from our shop.
Yeah.
They printed them out, because that's how they do things apparently. Yeah. And they went round and picked the thing. But they must have hit print twice, because when they came back to the printer, they picked up the same set of pick lists, shipped them all again. And this was on a campaign day, which meant we were shipping out a month's worth of orders on a day. Yeah. And we double shipped a whole campaign. And that led to quite a lot of head scratching as to what does this mean in terms of the processes under the hood? That it's even possible to do that without noticing. Yeah. Ultimately, we realised they had to go. We then started a little project to go and visit lots of other fulfillment companies to find a better supplier. And none of them impressed us. Most of them were better than this company, at least superficially. None of them were impressive. Even
this was you weren't doing market research for your company. No. You were just looking for an alternative.
We wanted to continue doing the jobs and to stop being sabotaged every week by something stupid happening in the warehouse. Yeah. So we were looking for a better warehouse, and we spec'd out what we wanted from a warehouse, and went out to try and match that in the market, and we couldn't find it. It was so far away from what we found that the kind of the penny dropped pretty quickly, that this is an opportunity here to do this just properly, what any web educated person would expect it to work like.
It's almost I guess that to use a somewhat Silicon Valley type of word that I don't necessarily like, but you probably felt to a certain degree that this needs to be disrupted in a way. I mean, because what I imagine from your description is that those companies were so old school. Yep. They grew from the days where people were on the phone and the fax.
And also they grew from the days when a pallet coming in meant a pallet going out. So you can rationalise that, right? You know how many pallets are coming in. At some point you get a phone call, you're going to move a pallet. That pallet's going to be worth, what's the cheapest pallet? It's not going to be less than 100 quid worth of stuff. Mm-hmm. It's probably going to be 1,000 quid worth of stuff on any pallet. that you can be bothered to pay someone else to
Yeah.
store. And now the same companies, probably dealing with the same people, when they used to take them in and ship them to Tesco's, now take them in, they ship 90% of them to Tesco's, they keep 10% of the pallets behind.
Yeah.
Each one of those pallets explodes like a nail bomb into thousands of little jiffy bag things, and no, not one of them, but two of them,
Yeah.
and oh, I want a case of those flavour, but not that flavour, and I
Yeah.
want it wrapped this way, And you think, these are the same companies, same systems, same staff for the most part, and in the space of 10 years, as people have switched on to this online
Yeah.
thing, their customers have gone, would you mind, just in that corner there, breaking apart those pallets, and remembering 1,001 new ways of processing stuff through
Yeah.
a whole pile of new mail services and all this stuff. So they were caught an unfortunate change in the prevailing market, which is a
So-
pallet could now turn into 1,000 small orders.
So do you think that they've caught on with some of your? I mean, what were your core not innovations, but the core things that you've done differently, and whether they've caught on or they're still as crap as they used to be?
Don't know, because obviously they won't let me in. I hear echoes of this from clients that come to us after poor experiences elsewhere, but obviously judging a company based on their worst experience is maybe a unfair thing to do. I think there are a few challengers that came in a little bit later than us who have what we think is a sensible idea. So working on so we do things in a certain way, which is all of our activities go through a web platform. Everything's web based. Our warehouse does not work without the internet. It's required like water and electricity. Because of that, all our data lives exactly one place in the world, which means everyone can see the same picture. There's no room for this kind of sending Tuesday's order out twice. It's just it's not possible. So in doing that, we closed down a lot of the kind of data disjointy transfer. I'm trying to think of the right term for it, but it's the lumpy transfer issue of knowing if I've sent you that packet of files or you've done something with that packet of files, when you end up either overlapping files or missing a file. That whenever you have this a chunked communication like a fax or a paper or anything else like that, you end up with this risk that you no longer have a definitive source of truth. You've fragmented it. So we put it online. That basically, in that action alone, changes the number of mistakes you can make. On top of that, and that's what other people have done. Our online warehouse management services, there existed online warehouse management systems that we could have bought when we started the company just to run, and a lot of these traditional warehouses have since, and even before, implemented these systems to some degree of success. Some have written their own, and the challengers are mostly in the market because they've written their own with their own assumptions of how they should work. Our underlying process actually wasn't to do with the software. The software was a necessary consequence of the accuracy we wanted. So we knew what we wanted to check for. We knew when we wanted to check it. And we knew how the real world process of getting a person to go around could be phrased in such a way that it would be very difficult for them to make a mistake. So an example would be, this is something Amazon uses, or I assume they're using it before us. And it's become more common, but when you move to a warehousing system that's all online and stored, as you're not relying on people to remember anything, it actually becomes immediately beneficial to scramble your warehouse. That is, instead of keeping all the shoes over here and all the clothes over here and all the DVDs over here, and then sending someone in to look for those specific shoes in amongst a pile of shoes or those specific DVDs on a shelf of DVDs, you mix them all in there. And then when you send someone here and you say, pick the shoes, they've got a shoe, they've got a DVD, they've got clothes. And they go, well, I'll pick the one thing that I know is right.
Yeah.
That type of chaotic storage is only possible once you're online, only possible once you have this kind of synchronous, connected idea of where things are, and once people forget about the shoe corner or whatever else. It looks a mess. It looks like it's disorganized.
Yeah.
It's actually optimized for accuracy.
Yeah.
Because you really can't do it wrong. You can't pick up the wrong pair of shoes because there's no shoes around you apart from the one pair you've been brought to that are exactly right. So that's something that followed from the way we wanted to do things. That's something we I can't say invented because I'm pretty sure it existed before us, but we came to that as something that would play to our strengths and essentially guarantee one type of mistake couldn't be made.
Right.
And we've similarly gone through other places of the process for wherever you can think of something weird happening. We've tried to make sure that we do it in a way such that weirdness isn't a thing.
Right.
So you're printing out things to go inside envelopes and things to go outside envelopes.
Yeah.
You know, stickers on the outside and paperwork on the inside.
Yeah.
We provide one piece of paper. It has the thing to go on the inside, and you peel off the sticker from the front. So
Yeah, I know.
matched.
I know what you mean. Those things. I think Amazon used to send with those. Now they well,
Just
the
this
ones
old
I
sticker.
get. No. It's actually a thermal printed receipt thing that I'm getting. I don't know if it's because it's a business account and I get stuff here. Or
No, I think that's just because it's
this is
cheaper.
how it is.
It's cheaper. You don't need to really read the paper so much.
Yeah, I was thinking. I mean, thinking ahead with the stuff that I'm doing, I was thinking maybe moving to that form factor of A4 thing. But me being me, I would want something that doesn't exist.
Yeah. Gotta keep it interesting.
Yeah. All right. I think I'm getting hungry.
Oh yeah.
We've talked a lot. I mean, it's an hour 45, if you believe it.
It's flown by.
And I'm going to cook us a meal.
Sounds great.
We
We could do a little cookery show here. I feel. Can you not get an induction plate? And we can
Good,
just
I guess.
continue, and then the good people at home can see what we're eating.
Yeah, no, it'll be hard. I like my pans and my
And
knives.
to cook
and
alone.
Huh?
To cook alone. That's what I
yes.
understand.
No. That document was giving you in confidence.
I didn't tell anyone about it. You brought this up.
No, yeah, there's well, let's not discuss the document. But yeah, so I'm gonna make burgers, and I'm thinking about the burgers. I was, slowly thinking
Once
more
it's
and
in
more
your
about
head,
my
though. Yeah.
because I enjoy cooking, and part of the enjoyment is the thinking
Anticipation.
about cooking and about what you're gonna do, and you take that out of the fridge and then do this.
I could tell when I was speaking at points you were just off in some sort of burger haze.
So, and yeah, it's getting quite 7:35. So we didn't get to any of the variety part. You were going to do
This was
some
unvaried.
Scottish dancing or something.
Yeah, it was.
Does that
And
exist?
Scottish dancing's a thing.
is
What do you
it?
mean does that exist?
I don't know. It's just
Outrageous.
what is it called?
Well, Scottish country dancing or Highland dancing. There's two
Yes,
different disciplines.
Right.
Have you been to a Killie?
Oh, I have. Yes, of course.
Well, Killie dancing is Scottish.
Yeah, it is.
that
I'm
way
sorry.
for
Yes, I forgot. It's been a while. It's been a while.
Wow. To get back on that horse.
I actually did go to one. Yeah.
Fun.
I'm not a dancer type of thing,
nice
but
thing
I
about
did.
Canada
I ended up. Yeah, it was. I think we went to Edinburgh years and years ago for the Hogmanay thingy, and we stayed with a family. There was no Airbnb, but it was, well, it was bed and breakfast type of thing, and then they invited us. It was the year that there was. It was very windy, so they cancelled.
Oh, because the stage lights were blowing.
No, they cancelled a bunch of things but we didn't have tickets anyway. Anyway, I don't remember. Anyway, so they took us to that thing where I don't even remember where it was, and it was special because it wasn't a touristy thing or something.
Yeah,
they just took
where
us
the
to
locals
the
go.
thing. Right? So that's I think.
That'll be a challenging introduction, though, if it's a local Killie, because they won't call it in England. So in Scotland, you get taught Killie dancing at school, or we got taught Killie dancing at my school because they had a dance at the end of term.
Okay.
And it had a Scottish music component. So everyone learnt it, as well as doing volleyball and football and lifting weights and whatever. You had one little run of sessions where the boys and girls did gym class together.
Right.
And then had to dance. And while that was excruciatingly painful at the time, obviously, because that's a really embarrassing thing to have to do at that age, it's been really useful. Because now, when I'm in England, I'm pretty good at Scottish country dancing, if I say so myself.
Okay.
And everyone else needs to be taught by the collar.
Oh, right.
But I understand the
when
dance. So
there's an event,
This is a
somebody
very-
says, let's do a Scottish Gaelic kind of type of thing.
and they'll bring someone in with the band normally.
Well,
Certainly
like on,
south of the border. Like line dancing or something.
No, but it's on Burns Night or
Burns
something.
Night
Yeah,
would be a classic time
typical,
to happen. But I think they happen a lot. But yeah, if you're up in the Scottish version, that will be without safety wheels. You'll just have to try and work out what everyone else is doing and copy that at the right time.
I can't
It's
remember.
not
We'll have to
always
ask Caroline about this over dinner.
There's Kelly's in London. I know a friend who
No,
went to school with who's dances down here.
Don't mention that.
I'll mention it to Carolyn.
Yeah,
She'll be into it.
she might be watching. It's too late. But no.
Send
Okay,
a
so
message.
the last thing music. What do you listen to? Do you listen to music when you
yeah.
work?
Oh, when I work, I listen to more limited set music when I work. I listen to a lot of stuff without vocals in it. I think that's quite a common thing because it's distracting.
Really?
I like.
What? Like classic?
It tends to be kind of at the rocky, metally, math rocky end of things. So kind of complicated.
Math rock, he said?
Yeah, so...
What's math rock?
Math rock tends to be kind of...
Math rock?
Like progressive. It's progressive, but it tends to be around odd or interesting rhythmic structures. So not standard time signatures, odd instrumentation, normally weird motif-style repetition stuff. So, I think the alternative to that is old game soundtracks. Not the kind of plinky-clinky one, but like, for example, the Command and Conquer Red Alert soundtrack, which I'm sure I've had programmed as a child into my head. Because now when I get in that...
What about
zone,
the adventure games, like whenever I hear the Monkey Island...
nice, yeah.
Or Loom had a very good... it's a slightly older...
I can't think what Loom would be soundtrack-wise.
It was very... I think it was one of the first ones that really invested in it was a LucasArts game.
Is it Curse or Escape of Monkey Island has an incredible soundtrack when they moved forward to proper recorded
Can
stuff.
I tell you something weird? Last night, I felt, for some reason, this game, this Montezuma's Revenge, from my childhood came to my mind, and I was searching. This was like 12, past midnight, and I was looking, and then there was this guy just going through the levels, and I was just watching for about half an hour.
What is Montezuma's Revenge?
It's this old sort of action game.
What kind of era? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was probably early 80s, 84 maybe, something like that. So it kind of, you get these flashbacks from anyway. But you have these this classic tones. Okay, but I don't. Are you? So what? You telling me you're kind of a hipster when it comes to music? Like, I was going to ask you about. Would that be a band that I would have heard of? No, you wouldn't have heard about.
Well, there's a risk.
Math rock.
Spotify does this great thing where it gives you there's a release radar, which is things that it thinks you will want to know based on what you've listened to, and there's another one, Discovery Weekly, comes up with a lot of good stuff. So there's a band called Intervals, which is they'd be in this math rocky area, kind of slightly heavy guitar led, no vocals, really interesting, like maybe a bit wanky guitar stuff, but nicely phrased songs and stuff. And then that's chained into a few other things. Most recently, a band called By Curious, which is one of those ones that's very hard to Google for. By Curious is an Irish band. They've only released 6 or 7 tracks, and they're all cracking. They're all great, like funky, metally, rocky, just good upbeat music.
I've learned. I listen to Planet Rock now. I think I
heard you say this. You're finding out bands that you feel like you should have known.
Because I'm stuck in music. I'm stuck in 90s alternative. That's my thing, you know. And then through the thing, but I've learned a word that they say a belter.
A belter.
That's like a good
an
good song.
Belter.
Yeah, a belter. Yeah. So I had to look that word up because I always. But it really does mean like. I
think that might be Scots. I associate that with things that people would say to me when I was back at home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
A wee belter. Ooh.
About music.
Yeah, about something that's an absolute.
Yeah, that's great. I enrich my vocabulary through Planet Rock.
I mean, it's not its intended use case, but if it works for you.
No, it's not. It is. All right, man. We are shutting down. Thank you for bearing with us, all two of you.
All of you.
All of you. I mean, I think we count as one here. So there's one watching.
Ben went home and started watching us.
Ben.
No, he did. He takes the job seriously. He's watching on the...
No, he's not watching. Oh, there's one popped up. No. It was 2 watching.
That's because I called him. It's
You
Ben.
invoked him.
Yeah. That's
No,
right.
Ben went. No, he shut down. Maybe, I don't know.
But he shut down there. You don't know what he's done
Oh
on his
yeah,
phone
it
as
could
he's
be. Could be.
trying to inflate our numbers and our egos.
Right, we got 2 upvotes already.
That's
That,
great.
that's a good sign.
Andrew.
Oh,
Well, I feel bad
for the
now.
last minute. Oh, you just popped up.
Is this one of your club?
Yes.
God, we can
Yes.
find him on the sheet. It's been great.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, James.
Thank you, sir.
The first James.
The
And,
very first.
if you need fulfillment, James and James. It is memorable, I have to say.
That's the
You
plug.
don't forget it,
You don't
right?
forget it. I haven't.
Yeah. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.